The first time I had lunch with my new coworkers, I thought understanding their English would be the hard part. I was wrong. I understood most of the words. The hard part was knowing what to say next. At work, English felt easier because there was always a clear topic. We talked about deadlines, meetings, reports, and problems that needed to be solved. But at lunch, there was no agenda. People jumped from one topic to another. Someone made a joke, someone changed the subject, and someone asked me a personal question without warning. That was when I realized small talk could feel harder than work English. It happened during my second week at the company. Around noon, Maya walked over to my desk. She said, "A few of us are grabbing lunch downstairs." Then she asked, "Want to join us?" I almost said I had work to finish, not because I was busy. I was nervous. Talking about work was fine. Talking for 40 minutes with no clear topic felt completely different. Still, I smiled and said, "Sure, sounds good." There were 4 of us at lunch: Maya, Daniel, Chris, and me. At first, I felt relieved because everyone was looking at the menu. Daniel looked at me and asked, "Have you tried this place before?" I said, "No, first time." He nodded and said, "Their chicken sandwich is pretty solid." I knew every word except one: solid. I knew solid could mean something hard. But I was pretty sure he was not describing the sandwich as hard. Later, I learned that pretty solid can mean pretty good or reliable. Then Maya asked, "So, how are you settling in?" I understood the words, but I had never answered that question before. Settling in means becoming comfortable in a new place, job, or situation. I said, "Good." And then I stopped. The answer was correct, but it killed the conversation. Maya smiled and waited for a second. I could feel that I should add something, so I quickly said, "I'm still getting used to everything, but everyone has been really helpful." Immediately, the conversation felt easier. Chris said, "Yeah, the first few weeks are always a lot." Maya added, "You'll get the hang of it." Get the hang of it means become comfortable or skilled at doing something. Then the food arrived. For about 30 seconds, everyone was quiet. I thought maybe the small talk part was over. Then Daniel asked, "So what do you usually get up to on weekends?" There it was again. A completely normal question that somehow made my brain stop working. I knew the vocabulary. I just did not have a ready answer. In my head, I started building a perfect sentence. By the time I finished translating it, everyone was still waiting. So I gave up on the perfect sentence. I said, "Nothing too exciting, honestly." Then I added, "I usually spend time with family and just take it easy." Daniel said, "Same here." And suddenly we had something to talk about. Chris asked Daniel whether he still went hiking every weekend. Daniel laughed and said, "Not every weekend." Then he said, "I've been slacking lately." "I've been slacking" means I have not been doing something as consistently as I should. Maya teased him and said, "Lately." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. This time, though, I actually understood the joke. Then Maya looked at me and asked, "Are you into hiking?" "Are you into hiking" means, "Do you like hiking or are you interested in it?" I said, "A little, but I'm definitely not hardcore." Daniel smiled and said, "That's probably healthier." Then I asked, "What about you guys?" That one question saved me. "What about you?" is one of the easiest ways to keep small talk moving. You do not always need a new topic. Sometimes you can simply return the question. The conversation moved to travel. Chris said he was going to Montreal the following month. Maya asked, "Is that for work or for fun?" Chris said, "A bit of both." A bit of both means both things are true to some degree. You can use it in dozens of everyday conversations. Then Chris asked me, "Have you done much traveling around here?" I said, "Not really, I'm still exploring." He said, "You should check out the coast when the weather gets better." Check out means visit, try, or take a look at something. I said, "I've been meaning to do that." For once, I was not translating. I just responded. A few minutes later, everyone started talking about a show I had never seen. This was the moment I usually feared most. When everyone knows the topic except you, it is easy to disappear from the conversation. The conversation became fast. I could not follow every detail. For a minute, I just listened. Then someone mentioned the show had only 8 episodes. That gave me an opening. I said, "Oh, that's not too bad." Then I asked, "Is it actually worth watching?" Everyone immediately had an answer. I did not need to know the show. I only needed one question that let other people keep talking. That was another thing I learned that day. Small talk is not a performance. You do not have to be the funniest person at the table. You do not need an amazing story for every topic. Sometimes your job is simply to react, ask one question, and stay present. Then the conversation changed again. Maya mentioned that the office would be quiet on Friday because several people were taking the day off. Chris said, "Must be nice." I knew the words, but the tone confused me. Must be nice can be sincere, playful, or slightly sarcastic depending on the tone. Chris was smiling, so everyone understood he was joking. Tone carried part of the meaning. That is something textbooks rarely prepare you for. Maya asked me whether I had any vacation planned. I said, "Not yet, but I'm thinking about taking a few days off in the fall." She said, "You should." Then she added, "It's good to get away once in a while." Get away means leave your normal routine for a short trip or break. I said, "Yeah, I think I need it." Maya laughed and said, "Don't we all?" Don't we all is a natural way to say that the same thing is true for everyone. Then Daniel asked how I liked the city so far. I said, "I like it, but I'm still getting used to how early everything closes." Daniel said, "That's fair. That's fair" is a useful way to acknowledge someone's point. It often means, "I can understand why you feel that way." By then, I was starting to relax. I stopped trying to prepare every sentence before I spoke. I started using shorter responses. "Really? No way." That makes sense. "Same here. That's fair." I know what you mean. Those little phrases gave me time. More importantly, they showed everyone that I was still part of the conversation. Then everyone went quiet for a moment. Usually silence made me panic, but this time I waited. Then I looked at Maya and asked, "By the way, how did your presentation go yesterday?" She said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you." And just like that, the conversation started again. By the way is a simple phrase for introducing a related or new topic. It is one of the easiest ways to restart a conversation after a short silence. Maya told us the presentation had gone well. Daniel said, "That's a win." "That's a win" means that outcome counts as a success. Then Maya asked whether I had to present often in my role. I said, "Every now and then." Every now and then means occasionally. When lunch was almost over, Daniel looked at the time. He said, "We should probably head back." Head back means return to the place you came from. We walked back upstairs together. On the way back, Maya asked, "See, not so bad, right?" I laughed because somehow she knew. I said I was definitely overthinking it. She said, "Everyone does at first." Then she added, "You don't have to say something brilliant all the time. Just be curious." Before we got back to our desks, I noticed something else about the way my coworkers talked. They used a lot of short, casual expressions that never sounded as clear in textbooks. None of them was difficult, but they made the conversation sound much more natural. At one point, Daniel looked at his food and said, "I'm starving." "I'm starving" usually just means "I'm very hungry." People say it all the time, even when they are obviously not literally starving. Chris asked if anyone wanted to split some fries. Maya said, "I'm down." "I'm down" is a casual way to say, "I'm interested" or "I'm willing." You might hear, "I'm down for lunch," "I'm down to go," or "Yeah, I'm down." Daniel asked if I wanted another drink. I said, "I'm good, thanks." "I'm good" can mean "no thanks." "I have enough," depending on the situation. It does not always mean "I feel good." A minute later, Chris bumped the table and almost knocked over my water. He immediately said, "My bad." My bad is a very casual way to say, "That was my mistake." I answered, "No worries." No worries means it's okay, don't worry about it. Daniel made a joke about Chris being late to everything. Chris rolled his eyes and said, "I'm just messing with you." "I'm just messing with you" means I'm joking or teasing you. It is very common when someone wants to make sure a joke does not sound serious. Maya disagreed with Daniel about the best place to eat nearby. Daniel listened and said, "Fair enough." Fair enough means I can accept that point even if I do not fully agree. You can use it to keep a disagreement relaxed. Then Chris said, "You've got a point." "You got a point" means there is something valid in what you are saying. It sounds more conversational than simply saying, "I agree." When someone suggested going out again after work, Maya said, "I'm on the fence." "I'm on the fence" means I have not decided yet. It is useful when you are choosing between yes and no. Daniel said he had stayed up too late the night before. Then he added, "I'm beat." "I'm beat" is a common casual way to say, "I'm very tired." You will hear it often after work, travel, exercise, or a long day. Chris said, "Been there." Been there means I have experienced that too. It is a short way to show that you can relate. Maya said she had not seen one of our coworkers in a while. She said, "It's been a minute." It's been a minute often means it has been quite a while. It is casual and very common in everyday speech. At one point, Daniel needed time to remember a restaurant name. He said, "Give me a sec." Give me a sec means give me a second or give me a moment. It is an easy phrase when you need a little time to think. Chris suggested a place and Maya said, "Good call." Good call means that was a good decision or suggestion. You will hear it at work and in everyday life. Daniel asked if everyone wanted dessert. Chris said, "I could go for something sweet." I could go for something means I would like that right now. You can say, I could go for coffee, pizza, or a walk. Maya looked at the dessert menu and said, "I'm not really feeling it." "I'm not really feeling it" means I'm not very interested in it right now. It can refer to food, plans, activities, or even an idea. When we finally stood up to leave, Daniel said, "Long story short, we need to come back here." Long story short means here is the short version of a longer story. It is useful when you want to skip unnecessary details. Maya then said, "Speaking of lunch, we should try the new place next door sometime." Speaking of that is a natural way to connect the current topic to a related one. It helps topic changes sound smoother. By the end of lunch, I realized casual English was full of these tiny expressions. They were not really advanced slang. They were just the kinds of phrases people use constantly when they are relaxed. And once I started noticing them, small talk sounded much less mysterious. Back at my desk, I realized why lunch had felt harder than a meeting. In a meeting, I knew my role. I knew the topic. I knew what information mattered. At lunch, there were no clear roles. The goal was not to solve anything. The goal was connection. And connection uses a different kind of English. You need reactions. You need follow-up questions. You need ways to return a question. You need simple phrases that buy you time. And you need to accept that you will not understand every joke or every reference. That is okay. You can still stay in the conversation. Here are some of the phrases that helped me most that day. I'm still getting used to it. Nothing too exciting, honestly. What about you? A bit of both. I've been meaning to do that. Is it actually worth watching? That's fair. I know what you mean. Same here. By the way, every now and then, we should probably head back. Notice how none of these expressions is difficult. That is exactly the point. Small talk is rarely difficult because the vocabulary is advanced. It feels difficult because you have to react quickly without knowing what topic is coming next. You need familiar responses that are easy to reach in real time. Let us practice a few moments from the lunch again. Imagine someone asks, "How are you settling in?" Try, "Pretty well, I'm still getting used to everything." Then add, "Everyone has been really helpful." Now someone asks, "What do you usually get up to on weekends?" Try, "Nothing too exciting, honestly." Then add, "I usually take it easy and spend time with family." Then return the question with, "What about you?" Now everyone starts talking about a show you have never seen. You do not have to disappear. Ask, "Is it actually worth watching?" Or ask, "What do you like about it?" Now you are back in the conversation. The biggest lesson from that lunch was simple. You do not need better English before you join the conversation. You need a smaller set of useful English that you can actually use quickly. A reaction, a follow-up question, a way to return the question, a phrase that keeps you present while you think. That is enough to start. So if work English feels easier than lunch with coworkers, there is nothing strange about that. Work English gives you structure. Small talk asks you to react to people. That takes practice. But the good news is that you do not need hundreds of new phrases. You need a few useful patterns practiced enough times that they stop feeling new. If this story felt familiar, listen again and focus on the short reactions and follow-up questions. On the second listen, pause before Emily answers and say what you would say. On the third listen, imagine you are sitting at that lunch table yourself. Do not try to sound perfect. Just stay in the conversation. That is how small talk slowly stops feeling like a test and starts feeling like what it really is. Just people talking to people. If you like this kind of story-based real-life English, subscribe to Fluent Trail English and keep practicing with me. I will see you in the next episode.